Back for some brand new breaking news. MS Now has just learned that FBI Director Kash Patel may be knowledge of the situation. Say President Trump and his top aides have grown tired of Patel and the unflattering headlines he's been generating recently, including using a government jet to visit his girlfriend and enlisting a SWAT team as her security detail. Joining us, MS Now Justice and Intelligence reporter Ken Delanian and MS Now White House reporter Laura Barone-Lopez. Both of them broke this story along with Carol Leonnig. Ken, give me more.
Well, Katie, I should say, first of all the qualifiers apply here. With Donald Trump and personnel decisions, you never actually know exactly what's going on. But we are being told that Kash Patel, the FBI director, is on increasingly thin ice. And the president is considering replacing him by the end of the year with Andrew Bailey, the former Attorney General of Missouri, who is acting now as co-deputy FBI director, along with Dan Bongino. And it's for all the reasons that you just said and others. The use of taxpayer resources, the flying his girlfriend around on the FBI jet, but also the premature tweets, including related to the Charlie Kirk assassination and other investigations, that terrorist attack in Michigan where Patel got out in front of the investigation and tweeted about the arrest.
In a recent courtroom drama, a federal judge threatened Kash Patel with immediate arrest. Yep, you heard that right. The judge said, "If you don't comply by 5 this evening, you're heading to jail today. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today." This whole mess revolves around the Epstein files. Patel has apparently been less than honest with Congress and the courts about why he won't release certain documents. These documents are believed to show some ties between Trump's associates and Jeffrey Epstein. Judge Boasberg, who's in charge of the case, confronted Patel in court with proof that he had been fabricating excuses. Patel claimed there were sealed court orders that stopped him from releasing those documents, but it turns out those orders don't even exist. He made them up. Now, the judge is calling it what it is: perjury and obstruction. So here's the deal. Kash Patel is in some serious trouble right now. If he doesn't hand over the documents by 5 p.m., he's risking arrest. The scene in the courtroom was wild. He literally froze up. I heard people saying he went pale and couldn't even talk while his lawyers were in a frenzy. The judge was on him hard, pointing out that he lied to both the court and Congress, and he made it clear that Patel was about to face some serious consequences.
Patel for a long time, although they've publicly denied it when others have reported it. And now it's increasingly clear that the White House is as well. Now, our reporting this may actually enhance his job security, right? So it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen, but that is the reporting at this hour, Katie.
Yeah, no, we have seen situations where when it comes out that somebody is being considered for removal in order to prove that that Donald Trump does not have any chaos on his team or in his cabinet, has come out and said, no, of course not. I'm not considering anything. Let me play the president a little bit earlier today talking about Kash Patel during the Turkey pardon.
FBI Director Kash Patel has been very busy and doing a great job. Also, thank you, Kash.
We've got Congress digging into the Epstein files cover-up. Remember when Attorney General Pam Bondi deleted key photos from the Epstein evidence website? Those included images of Trump at Epstein's mansion and other incriminating scenes. Congress is hot on the trail to find out who gave the orders for those deletions. They've subpoenaed Kash Patel, who's sitting on a treasure trove of the Epstein investigation files as the FBI director. The folks in Congress want to dig into what evidence exists, what's been wiped out, and the reasoning behind it all. But Patel has been pushing back, claiming there are sealed court orders stopping him from releasing any documents, and that judges have labeled the files confidential. It's quite a story with Kash Patel. So it turns out he claimed he couldn't hand over some documents because of sealed court orders, and Congress was getting pretty frustrated. I mean, why would the FBI director lie about something like that, right? It seemed a bit far-fetched, but Judge Boasberg, a federal judge in D.C., caught wind of what Patel was saying. The judge was curious and thought, I haven't issued any sealed orders regarding Epstein files, and neither has anyone I know. So, the judge decided to dig a little deeper and found out that Patel had completely made up those claims. There were no sealed orders stopping the release of documents. Just like that, the judge realized Patel was lying. And that's no small deal. Lying about court orders is a serious offense. We're talking obstruction. And if it was said under oath, it's perjury, plus contempt of court for trying to use fake orders to dodge subpoenas. That led to a hearing, and Patel was ordered to appear. During the session on December 27, 2025, the judge really went after him. He laid it all out. I've looked at the court records. There are no sealed orders regarding these Epstein files. You made all this up. You lied to Congress. You lied to investigators. And now you're obstructing justice. You have until 5 o'clock this evening to hand over the documents Congress subpoenaed. If you don't, you'll be held in criminal contempt and arrested on the spot, and you'll stay in federal custody until you comply. Witnesses said Patel was completely taken aback. His face turned pale, and his lawyers were whispering anxiously, but the judge just kept moving forward. He added, "I'm also referring you to prosecutors for perjury because you swore under oath that these sealed orders exist and they don't. That's a felony, and you'll face criminal charges for it." Then he made it crystal clear. Do you get what I'm saying? You have until 5 days, less than 6 hours, to turn over the documents or you're going to jail. Your call. Patel finally stammered something about needing to talk to his lawyers, and the judge replied, "Go ahead, but the deadline is firm. 5 After that, the judge wrapped up the hearing, and Patel walked out looking completely defeated. He knows he's in a real bind. If he hands over the documents, they'll likely expose whatever Trump and his allies are trying to hide about Epstein. But if he doesn't, well, he faces some serious consequences. So let's dive into what's been going on with Kash Patel, because it's quite a mess. To start with, Patel is in some serious hot water. The judge is in a position where he might just throw Patel in jail if he doesn't give up the files he's been holding on to. This whole situation is tied to Pam Bondi, who has been facing her own scandal. There were some deleted photos from the Epstein Files website, and Patel has been covering for her by keeping silent on who ordered those deletions. But now the judge is stepping in, and it looks like the truth is going to come out, which could really rock the boat for Trump's circle. Getting into the nitty-gritty, the details are pretty shocking. When you see how Patel's been dodging the facts, you realize just how dire his situation is. To understand this, we need to look at the Epstein investigation and the significance of those files. Jeffrey Epstein was involved in some serious criminal activities, trafficking, and had ties with lots of influential figures. Politicians, business mogul, celebrities. When he was arrested and later died in custody, it opened a floodgate of evidence that the FBI collected. We're talking photos, videos, flight logs, and financial records, all pointing to who was in Epstein's circle and possibly linked to his crimes. Once the Epstein Files Transparency Act was enacted, it mandated that the Justice Department make all this evidence public within 30 days, aside from a few exceptions for ongoing investigations and privacy protection for victims. So, everything was meant to be shared. Initially, a website popped up that included some of these files, like photos from Epstein's properties. But then, according to whistleblowers, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, allegedly ordered specific photos to be deleted, particularly ones showing Trump at Epstein's mansion and images from a massage room where a lot of the wrongdoings took place. This caught Congress's attention, and they started digging deeper to find out who had ordered those deletions and why. That's when they put out a subpoena for Kash Patel, who as the FBI director knows all the ins and outs of the evidence, including what was deleted and at whose behest. They wanted to get to the bottom of it, but Patel pushed back and refused to hand over any documents, claiming that sealed court orders were blocking him from releasing anything. He stated that judges had determined these files were part of ongoing investigations and therefore couldn't be disclosed. At first, Congress accepted this reasoning. It sounded convincing enough. So, you know how sometimes judges seal evidence in sensitive cases? Well, Congress didn't want to get in the way of current investigations, so they kind of stepped back. But there were some members who were a bit suspicious about Kash Patel. They thought he might be bending the truth. So they started digging a little deeper. They reached out to other judges, looked through court records, and guess what? They couldn't find any proof of those sealed orders Patel was claiming existed. Then Judge Boasberg, a senior federal judge in Washington, D.C., stepped in. He's the kind of guy who handles a lot of high-profile cases, and when he caught wind of Patel's allegations, he was pretty doubtful. After all, he knows all the judges in D.C., and he hadn't heard anything about those sealed orders regarding the Epstein files. Intrigued, he launched his own investigation. He sifted through the court records and checked with his fellow judges, confirming that there were no sealed orders stopping the release of those documents. Ultimately, Patel's claims turned out to be completely fabricated, and that's a serious deal. When you claim a court order exists and it doesn't, that's obstruction of justice. It's like using a fake legal excuse to get out of complying with subpoenas. And when you say it under oath, like Patel did during his testimony in front of Congress, that's perjury. Both of those are federal felonies which come with pretty hefty prison sentences. So Judge Boasberg decided to hold a hearing and ordered Patel to appear in person. During the hearing, the judge laid everything out. He said, "I've talked to every judge who could have possibly issued that order. I've gone through all the sealed dockets. I've looked at every case file related to Epstein, and there are no sealed orders keeping you from following those subpoenas. You lied." The judge had the transcripts too. He pointed to Patel's testimony where Patel explicitly mentioned sealed court orders and said, "This is perjury. You testified under oath about orders that don't exist." Patel tried to defend himself. People in the courtroom said his lawyers argued there had been a misunderstanding, that Patel honestly believed there were legal restrictions, but Judge Boasberg wasn't having it. He shot back, "No, you didn't misunderstand. You made up specific court orders. You named specific judges and gave detailed explanations. This wasn't an accident. This was outright deception." And then he dropped the final blow, saying, "I'm giving you until 5 this evening." The judge was pretty clear when he said that Kash Patel needs to hand over everything Congress has asked for. Every document, all the Epstein files, all the evidence that sheds light on who ordered the deletions, and all the back-and-forth communications between the Department of Justice and the FBI about this whole mess. And he made it known that if Patel doesn't comply, he's looking at a criminal contempt charge, which means a warrant for his arrest would be issued immediately. No waiting around for next week or even after an appeal. We're talking today. What's interesting is the judge emphasized that criminal contempt is distinct from civil contempt. With civil contempt, you can fix the issue by complying, but with criminal contempt, the crime has already been committed. The judge clearly thinks that Patel's lies are significant enough to warrant this serious charge. Even if Patel eventually falls in line and complies, he could still be facing jail time for contempt and certainly charges for perjury, which is no small matter. You could see the panic in Patel. According to those watching, he went from his normal complexion to ghostly pale in mere seconds. His hands were shaking as he kept glancing nervously at his lawyers as if to say, "What do we do now?" And his legal team was whispering urgently, fully aware that Patel is in a tight spot. If he hands over those documents, they might expose whatever cover-up Trump and Bondi have been pulling off. But if he refuses, he's heading straight to jail. Now, let's consider what might be lurking in those documents. The fact that Patel is ready to gamble with jail time rather than release them suggests they're likely explosive. From what we've gathered from various whistleblowers, it seems the files could reveal that Bondi personally orchestrated the deletion of Trump photos from the Epstein Files website, doing so to protect Trump's image politically. Plus, she lied afterward, claiming the deletions were for the sake of victim protection. It's also likely that these documents contain communications between Bondi, Patel, and possibly Trump regarding the Epstein files, what to disclose and what not to. Essentially, how to navigate the political storm. If any of this communication exists, it could be a solid case for obstruction or a conspiracy to conceal evidence, which is quite serious. There could even be documents indicating what other crucial evidence has been deleted or concealed. Not just photos, but potentially flight logs, financial records, or witness statements. Given that the Epstein investigation has produced thousands of pages of evidence, if Bondi and Patel have been selectively hiding portions of it, that's a significant obstruction of justice. It's pretty fascinating how the documents might reveal some connections between Trump's circle and Epstein. Trump has openly admitted to knowing Epstein. They even hung out and went to parties together. Of course, he insists they weren't buddies and claims he severed ties once he learned about Epstein's wrongdoings. But if those deleted photos resurface, they could tell a different story, possibly showing a closer friendship than he would like us to believe. That would definitely create quite a political mess for him. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty about the deadline. It's set for 5 in the afternoon on December 27th, 2025, and that's a tight timeline. The judge is making it crystal clear. He's got the documents, he knows they're accessible, and he wants them now. There are no delays, no appeals, and no extensions allowed. It's simply turn them over by the deadline or face serious consequences. If Kash Patel doesn't comply, here's what's waiting for him. At 5:01 p.m., Judge Boasberg will issue an arrest warrant and federal marshals will be sent to take him into custody until he decides to cooperate. If he still refuses, he could find himself stuck in custody indefinitely. That's the reality of contempt charges. Judges can hold someone until they follow orders, and there's really no time limit on how long that could go on. Patel can't just wiggle out of this with an appeal either, since contempt orders take immediate effect. Sure, he can file to appeal, but that doesn't pause the order. He'll have to comply while waiting for the appeal to go through, or he'll stay locked up. His only real option is to hand over those documents. No clever legal tricks will save him now. And this brings us to the bigger picture. Patel's dishonesty ties right into the behavior we've seen with Trump, Bondi, and others in that circle. They all seem to think they can lie, cover things up, and dodge accountability without any repercussions. But the courts are on to them. Judge Angaran caught Trump misrepresenting his property values, and Judge Boasberg has caught Patel not being truthful about court orders. The evidence is piling up, showing a clear trend. They believe they're above the law, but judges are proving otherwise. This situation also relates back to the impeachment discussions, as obstruction of justice is one of the key articles. Patel's lies to Congress fit right into that category. This gives Democrats a solid point to make. It's not just Trump who's playing games. His whole crew is in on it too. They're all obstructing, they're all fibbing, and they all need to be held responsible, which only strengthens the case for impeachment. Let's break down what's happening with Kash Patel, Donald Trump, and the whole Epstein cover-up situation, because this latest arrest threat isn't just about one person facing legal woes. It's a potential crack in Trump's inner circle that could unravel the entire cover-up. First off, there's Patel's current predicament. If he doesn't hand over the necessary documents by 5 in the afternoon, he could actually be heading to jail, not just for a night, but potentially for a while until he decides to cooperate. That's a pretty daunting thought for someone like him who's used to wielding power and being in control. Now, he finds himself threatened by a judge with jail time like any ordinary criminal. And the reality is, his legal team can't save him, and no appeals will help. The only way out for him is to comply, but doing so means he would have to turn on Trump, since those documents could reveal Trump and his allies' involvement in covering up connections to Epstein. Handing over those documents could lead to Trump's wrath. He might fire Patel or throw him under the bus publicly. Moreover, it would likely end Patel's career in Republican politics. So Patel is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either betray Trump or risk going to jail with only a few hours to make that tough call. And let's not forget about the perjury charges. Judge Boasberg indicated that he's referring Patel to prosecutors, meaning even if Patel does turn over the documents and manages to avoid contempt of court, he's still facing criminal charges for lying under oath. Perjury is no joke. It's a felony that comes with the possibility of prison time, so whether he complies or not, Patel's legal troubles aren't going anywhere. He could be looking at a trial, and the chance of serving time, which is obviously a devastating position for him to be in. Now turning to the political repercussions. Patel's situation is making waves and it's plastered all over the news. It paints Trump's administration in a light of corruption and incompetence. Here's the FBI director facing charges because he lied to protect Trump. And trust me, that's not exactly a reassuring image for voters. With Trump's approval rating already hanging in the 30s, situations like this certainly aren't helping as many see him surrounding himself with individuals who have questionable morals. The Democratic Party is capitalizing on this, running ads showcasing Patel's arrest threat, branding him as Trump's FBI director, a liar willing to break laws to hide Trump's ties to Epstein, and urging voters to choose Democrats to help clean up this mess. The whole scene of Kash Patel caught in court, staring down the barrel of jail time, really strikes a chord. It's a powerful image that really highlights the idea of consequences and accountability, and that's something voters appreciate. But not everyone sees it the same way. Trump's supporters have a different take. They believe Patel is being unfairly targeted, thinking that the judge is part of some deep state plot against Trump and his allies. Despite that support, though, I can't help but sense some disillusionment creeping in even among his base. It's endless scandals and court cases, and eventually it wears people out. They may start to think that maybe there's just too much chaos going on, and perhaps it's time to move on. Now, when those documents are finally released, whenever that may be, whether it's at 5 Live today or after Patel finds himself doing time, they're going to be a real bombshell. These documents are set to reveal that Bondi was behind the deletion of photos, and they might just show that Trump had way more connections to Epstein than he's been letting on. Plus, it's likely there will be evidence of obstruction involving several folks from Trump's administration. The minute these documents hit the public, you can bet there will be loud calls for more investigations. Congress will want to get into the mix with hearings and subpoenas for Bondi and Trump. This whole Epstein situation is destined to erupt even more right as we head into the midterms, which means it's going to take over the news cycle and hit Republicans hard. Another twist in this story is whether Patel will flip. With the possibility of prison time looming over him, he just might choose to team up with the prosecutors. Testifying against Bondi and Trump could be on the table, and he'd have all the inside scoop about who did what. If he goes that route, he could drag down the entire inner circle because, after all, he's the FBI director and has access to everything. But here's the catch. Flipping means turning his back on Trump. And that's a move Trump doesn't take lightly. He'd ruin Patel's reputation, calling him a traitor, and his supporters would completely buy into that narrative. So for Patel, flipping could feel like political suicide in the Republican world. Yet, if that's his choice to sidestep serious prison time, prosecutors are probably already reaching out to his legal team with potential deals. Kash Patel is in a tight spot right now. He's been advised to cooperate, and the recommendations could lead to some leniency for him, but he's got to make a choice, and it's tricky, especially considering the impeachment efforts floating around. Obstruction of justice comes into play with Representative Al Green's articles, and let's be real, Patel lying to Congress about those Epstein files is prime obstruction material. The Democrats smell blood and are gearing up to call him to testify at the House oversight hearings in January, ready to grill him on the fabrications surrounding who directed those lies about Trump's knowledge. Now, it's a catch-22 for Patel because the answers he provides could either nail Trump or land him in hot water himself. It's almost like handing the Democrats a gift. Look, it's not just Trump who's in trouble. His entire administration is mired in corruption. They'll be able to point fingers at his FBI director, who seems to be lying, and an attorney general who allegedly deleted evidence. With every new development, their case for impeachment gathers steam. And it's not just about impeachment. It circles back to Trump's growing list of legal woes. He's already tangled up in several investigations. And if those Epstein documents paint a more involved picture of Trump with Epstein than he lets on, we could be talking about new charges, perhaps conspiracy or accessory after the fact. The potential for fresh investigations is hanging over him like a dark cloud. The timing couldn't be worse for Trump either. He's facing asset seizures in a fraud case, getting ready for a deposition on January 15th, and dealing with 29 judges voting on federal election charges, all while maneuvering through this impeachment chaos. It's too much piling up at once, especially now that Patel could face arrest unless he coughs up documents that could further compromise Trump. It's total chaos. Looking at Trump's circle, Patel being threatened with arrest really shows cracks under pressure among Trump's loyalists. When it comes down to their freedom, they're likely asking if it's worth going to prison to protect him. For a lot of them, the answer will probably lean towards no. We might just see some of Trump's inner circle start to flip to cooperate and ultimately save themselves instead of risking it all for him. It's no surprise that Kash Patel is in a tight spot right now. The clock is ticking and he's facing a serious choice. When the judge threatened him with immediate arrest, it was like the walls were closing in. He understands he's caught between a rock and a hard place, and his life is about to take a big turn. Either he spills the beans on Trump and risks his career, or he chooses to protect him and ends up in jail. He's got just hours to figure it out. Looking at the whole situation, this could signal the beginning of the end for all the cover-ups surrounding Trump. When Patel decides to cooperate, or if he doesn't, things are going to get messy. Prosecutors are ready to take action as soon as they get their hands on the evidence, and it could lead to charges against Trump for a whole range of sins. It's honestly hard to believe he said that out loud. The recent court actions are sending clear signals. Judge Boasberg caught Patel in a lie, and Judge Enderon caught Trump doing the same. The Seventh Circuit uncovered Trump's immunity claims as false. Clearly, there's a pattern here, and the wheels of justice are starting to turn. If Patel decides to hand over the documents, chaos might ensue. Imagine Congress getting the evidence of the cover-up and prosecutors gaining the proof they need for obstruction. Not to mention, the public will finally see how deeply Trump's ties to Epstein run. And that could really shake things up for him politically and legally. On the flip side, if Patel refuses to cooperate, willing to risk jail time to protect Trump, we would witness something unprecedented. The FBI director getting arrested for contempt. That would be a stunning display of how far Trump's allies are willing to go to shield him. Whatever happens, the truth has a way of coming out. Whether Patel complies voluntarily or faces arrest first, those documents are going to surface. And when they do, that whole Epstein issue for Trump, it's going to blow up, especially with the midterm elections coming up in January 2026. This timing couldn't be worse for Trump, as voters will see his FBI director risking everything, betraying him or landing in jail. Neither outcome is good for him. It screams corruption, obstruction, and it reveals a president who is more than willing to let his loyalists ruin their lives just to protect his own interests. That's not true leadership. That's just cowardice. The deadline is creeping up at 5:00, and it's going to be interesting to see how Kash Patel handles the situation. The truth about Trump's connections to Epstein is starting to surface, and it could cause some real turmoil. I can't help but think this story is about to take off.